Hey folks, today we're going to talk about the story of David and Goliath. I'm sure most of you, or some of you at least, have heard of it, read the Bible story. Before I get started, I want to show you my shirt. Okay. Now the Philistine armies gathered to battle at Shochoh, and Saul and the men of Israel were gathered together and pitched by the valley of Elah, and set the battle in array against the Philistines. And the Philistines stood on a mountain on one side, and Israel stood on a mountain on the other side, and there was a valley between them. And there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits in a span, which is about 9 foot 6 inches tall. Big guy. This big boy wore a brass helmet and a chainmail coat, which is braided metal, and the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of brass, which is 156 pounds. How'd you like to wear that coat? He also had brass leg protectors and a piece of brass between his shoulders, and the staff of his spear was as long as a weaver's beam, about 20 feet, I think. And his spear head weighed 600 shekels of iron, which is a little over 15 pounds. That's pretty heavy. And he stood and screamed to the armies of Israel and said, "Why did you set your battle in array? Am I not a Philistine, and you servants to Saul? Choose you a man and send him down to me. If he is able to fight with me and kill me, then we will be your servants. But if I prevail against him, then you will be our servants." And the Philistines said, "I defy the armies of Israel this day. Give me a man that we may fight together." Sounds fair, doesn't it? When Saul and all Israel heard these words, they were scared to death. Now David, a son of Jesse of Bethlehem, Judah. Now Jesse had 8 sons, and the 3 oldest sons went with Saul to battle. And David was the youngest son, who stayed home with his father and tended to the sheep. Now Goliath the giant chanted his challenge day and night for 40 days. And Jesse said to David one day, "Hey son, would you please take these sandwiches to your brothers, and take with you these 10 cheeses to the captain of the 1,000, and see how things are going." Sorry. And now Saul and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Elah fighting the Philistines. And David rose early in the morning and left the sheep with a keeper, and went as Jesse had commanded him. And he came to the trench as the host had gone forth to fight, and shouted for the battle. So David left his carriage with a keeper and ran to the army, and came and saluted his brothers. And as he talked with them, there came the champion, the Philistine of Gath, named Goliath, out of the army of the Philistines, and repeated his challenge again. And David heard him, and all the men of Israel heard it, and fled out of fear. And the men of Israel said, "Have you seen this giant? Surely he has come to kill us all. But if a man does fight and kill the giant, the king will give him great riches, and let him marry his daughter, and this guy would be set for life." And David said, "Well then, if someone kills this uncircumcised Philistine, will he really get all these rewards?" And they answered, saying, "It shall be for the man who kill him." Now Eliab, his oldest brother, was angry with David, and said, "What are you doing here, and who is taking care of the sheep?" And David said, "What have I done wrong?" So David said he wants to speak to Saul. So they go get him David said to Saul, "Tell the army it's going to be okay. I will go fight this giant." And Saul said to David, "You can't go fight this giant. You're just a youth, and he is a man of war since his youth." And David said, "While tending to my father's sheep, there came a bear and a lion and took a sheep out of the flock. And I went after him and got the sheep out of his mouth. And when he rose to kill me, I caught him by this beard and smote him and slew him. I killed both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine is going to get the same thing because he has defied the armies of the living God." David said, "The same Lord that delivered me a victory over the lion and bear is the same Lord that will deliver this giant into my hands." Saul reluctantly said, "Okay, David, go and let the Lord be with thee." And Saul armed him with a helmet of brass and a chainmail coat. Of course, they were too big and heavy for the youth, so David said, "I can't fight in this stuff," and he took them off. So David goes off with his staff, which is a walking stick, and he picked up 5 smooth stones from the stream and put them in his fanny pack, his shepherd's bag. And his sling was in his hand as he approached the giant. So out comes the giant towards David, and when he got a good look at David, he looks at this young little white boy and said, "What am I, a dog, that you send me a boy with a stick and a sling?" And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. And Goliath said, "Come here, boy, and I will give your flesh to the birds in the air and the beasts of the field." And David said, "You come at me with a spear, a shield, and a sword, but I come at you in the name of the Lord of the host, the God of armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day the Lord will deliver you unto my hands, and I will smite you and take your head from you, and I will give your carcass this day to the fowls of the air and the beasts of the field, so that the earth may know there is a God in Israel. And all this assembly will know that the Lord saves not with a sword and a spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands." And it came to pass that the giant headed to David, and David headed toward the giant. Then David grabs one of the stones from his bag and tossed it with his sling, hitting the giant in the forehead, and the stone sunk in his forehead, and the giant fell on his face to the ground. So David killed the Philistine without a sword. So David ran and stood on the giant and took his sword and cut the giant's head off. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they ran like cowards. Then the armies of Israel chased the Philistines and overtook them in the valley. Then they raided their tents and took what they wanted or needed. And David took the head of the giant to Jerusalem, but he put his armor in his tent. Saul asked, "Whose son is this?" The captain, Abner, said, "I don't know, sir." And as David returned from the slaughter of the Philistines, Abner took him and brought him to Saul with the head of the giant. Saul said to David, "Whose son are you?" "I am the son of Jesse the Bethlehemite." Say that. And it came to pass when David returned from the slaughter of the Philistines, the women came out to greet David, singing and dancing. The women were singing, "Saul has killed his thousands, and David has killed his tens of thousands." So now Saul is angry at David, and this started Saul's hatred for David and chasing him all over the land trying to kill him, which is a whole nother story. So the moral of the story, remember, we all at one time or another face feeling like the weaker member of the group. You might face steep financial troubles, medical issues, or relationship problems. But we learn from David that faith defeats physical power regardless of a person's stature. Through his wisdom, David helps people realize that God has unlimited power to pull you out of or through any situation. God's power becomes active when we trust in Him, which makes giants collapse. No matter how giant your problems seem, God's glory will conquer all. Thank you all for putting up with me again, and I'll see you in a week. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.